Once again, greetings to you, and we are back here on Living in the Dementia World. Today we're going to be examining the end of life. We will look at hospice care as well as palliative care and how to best prepare yourself for when end of life should come. Now, this is a very hard subject that often family members and even doctors like to talk about. Sometimes doctors may feel a helplessness because they can't cure their patients. It seems to avoid patients and those who are in a dying form of life. And when that happens, not that it happens with every doctor, but it even happens with family members also, when they feel helpless and they can't do anything to cure the patient, or even family members trying to rescue their own families from death. And the result of that, sometimes the dying person could be feel somewhat isolated, not being cared for anymore, and this can add extra trauma to that person psychologically on their last moments of life. Today, we want to look at the most important part of getting prepared to depart from this world. We will speak on it in layman's terms. It's always a touchy subject to go on when you know that your loved ones are departing from you. You would have done all the best you can to possibly keep them alive. You send them to the hospitals, you send them to the doctors, finally probably a nursing home. And sooner or later, this is a path that they will have to come to. But it's life. All of us has to cross that journey at some point. And the best way sometimes to prepare for it, not knowing whether when we get old, what condition or mental status we are going to be in, it's best to prepare for it. And often people don't like to prepare for death or even write wills, simply because it brings a superstitious consciousness to your minds that you are preparing to die when you may be far from. But no one knows the day that they're going to die, right? So I just want to look first at the advanced directives that a person can possibly think about before they get into that place. And sometimes it's best to have a written statement that captures the wishes regarding the extent of end-stage medical treatments or interventions, often referred to as living will. This is intended to make sure the preferences are carried out if the person is not able to communicate with the doctor. And this should be okay for everyone. We don't know when sickness is going to come upon us. Sometimes it gives you warnings. Sometimes you wake up one day and automatically happens because you were ailing with a certain disease or sickness or various symptoms you never told someone, or even you may not even be cautious to the fact that you are getting sick till one day you recognize you have to go to the doctor and something unexpectedly happened to you, and who knows, you may become verbally incapacitated. Some strange thing happened that you need the assistance of others to speak on your behalf. So it's often good to have certain measures put in place. You could have a healthcare proxy, you can have a power of attorney, someone that you love, a loved one, your father, mother, brother, sister, some close one to you. You should always have that person as your secondary person to speak on your behalf in the event that you can. And this just doesn't always apply to healthcare issues, but any other form of issues to best represent yourself. So it's good to always have a will put in place. And obviously, young people don't think of this because they are vibrant, full of life and energetic, well energized, and they don't often think about dying. And sometimes they don't have assets or accumulation of assets over the years of their young life to leave a will for anyone. But this comes under the bracket basically of aging. When you are aging, you get elderly over your life, you would have able to accumulate assets and wealth and so forth. And you need someone to speak on your behalf or take care of that and it's best to have a written will put in place for when such a thing happens. Then there's the instructional directive. A form of an advanced directive specifies particular healthcare interventions that a patient anticipates they could accept or reject during treatment for a critical or life-threatening illness. And we know of these things. Some people prefer not to resuscitate in the event they have a cardiac arrest or some other issue, or if they're going to die, they prefer not to take treatment. They just want to die, and in that event, well, so be it. You leave what you've written. That's what you want, that's your instructions, and that's what you put in place to take care of you when something drastically happens in your life. Then the proxy directive, a form of advanced directive that specifies the person or persons who have legal power of attorney to make healthcare decisions for the patient if they are no longer competent to make such choices. So we see where a healthcare proxy came in. We just mentioned that a few minutes ago, that it's always good to have a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney, someone to speak on your behalf in the event unfortunate circumstances come your way and you can't deal with it on your own, that there's some written directives there, or a proxy directive or instructional directive there that can make decisions that you would have had put in place for when such drastic things happen. So that's the basic preparational process for anyone, especially when they get to a certain age in life, to best preserve the integrity through the voice of someone else via a written form of documentation. That is always essential. Now, we want to look at the end of life and the different experiences that a person will go through. And we have a doctor by the name of Kubler-Ross who speak about the dying experiences of a person. And obviously, this is a Swiss-American psychiatrist, and she's the author of Death and Dying. So, the first stage is denial. No one wants to really hear that they are in the process of dying. No one wants to even fathom that or think about it. But it becomes a temporary shock. It can be shown by a person who may not believe the terminal diagnosis. They may ask for a medical test, recheck, and verify. A patient may be reluctant to discuss their illness with medical staff, family, and friends. Denial is the most common defense mechanism that buffers the immediate shock of the loss and numbs the emotions. For most people experiencing grief, this stage is a temporary response that carries one through the first wave of pain. And that's natural. No one wants to hear they're going to die or are in the last stages of their life, and it becomes a shock, especially when you have no idea that something is going on significantly wrong in your body internally. And this means it's too late to be remedied by a doctor, or you may refuse getting a remedy by a doctor, and it comes as a shock. And when this happens, your first thing is to deny. Oh, this can't be happening to me. What's going on here? I didn't feel like I'm going to die. Unfortunately, that's the outcome, right? And that's to basically calm the on expectation of dying. It's the first shocking pain you get mentally, emotionally, psychologically, even physiologically. Then, in some folks, they become angry. This is the other stage, anger. This often expressed verbally or non-verbally. Anger can be focused on a person, a healthcare provider, God, or the world in general. A person can become over-demanding and self-centered. The person may complain a lot, become hypercritical, and refuse care. So this anger The ability after your first initial shock of denial, you get angry. I can't deal with this. And you lash out at your mom, you lash out at anyone, your brothers, sisters, any family member, any of your loved ones, your best friend. You get angry and you lash out at other folks. And this again is expected. And it's good that if the other folks who are lashed out at, whether you be a caregiver or a loved one, family member, or best friend, to understand significantly what that person is going through and be there for them. You become the bigger person, calm them down, speak with them, help them to cope with it, be there for them, be a real friend, be a real loved one, be a good caretaker. Whatever you are, be there for them and give them the best experiences in their final stages of life. When that anger is basically ending or winding down and acceptance is coming in to some degree, a bargaining position normally comes about. No one can really bargain their way out of life. You never bargain yourself into life. Realities, you can't bargain yourself out of life. It's funny that when that moment comes in your life, no one, no doctor, no friend, no family, no one can take it for you. That's an experience you have to experience on your own, and you're going through the final stages of life. Just like a baby coming to the world by itself, unless it's born with a twin, and they experience life individually still on their own. So in the bargaining process, the person may begin to verbalize a wish or a plea for extension. The plea may be made with doctors or with higher power. Bargaining involves trying to think of what could be done to turn the situation around. Living better, devoting yourself to a cause, and being a better friend, parent, a spouse are all agreements one might willingly commit to if doing so would lengthen life. They may pray to stay alive until a significant event to see a particular person. And these are little bargaining things we try to do. We think we can do all these things and extend life, but we have no extension of life in that form when that time draw near for us to be over, it's going to be over. And we must come to a realization that people die every day, people born every day. This is a part of life we go through, and the earlier we can accept that at some point in life we will leave this place, the better it would be. Then, when that bargaining is all over, a stage of depression steps in, and this may be expressed through verbal expressions of sadness, crying, and self-isolation. The person may refuse to eat or drink and become disinterested in personal appearance. They may share a desire to die. This depression makes others feel very uncomfortable, and family members may try to console their loved ones. Sometimes hospice care may include the use of antidepressants to reduce depression during this stage. So we see the integral part of hospice, by the way, which we will talk a little bit later about the importance of hospice and so forth. But depression steps in. And again, it's hard to put it this way, but let us keep it real. When a family member, and sometimes even a doctor or a healthcare provider, work with someone for so long, or know or love someone for so long, the process of dying takes part of you. But I want to more put it towards the family, because I guess in the healthcare industry, this is something they learn to deal with every day and cope with, and they manage to get over because it become a regular active part of their life story. But for the family member who maybe for the first or second time have to be dealing with their loved ones departing from them, a part of them die also. A part of them mourn, and they feel the pain, they feel it hurts, because no one knows better than you do who you are dealing with and who you used to love, the good moments you shared in life and the great experiences you have in life. No one was there to experience that but you and that person. And to see that they're going through a process of dying, and you know very well that they will die pretty soon, a part of you die with that person. The sensitivity and connection you once have to that person is dying also. And sometimes that very loved one or person who is there to see you going through that stage of passage may need some kind of mental rehabilitative measures after the process is done. You may need counseling, whether it's grief counseling or whatever the case may be, because you just can't deal with it at present or even when it's all over, said and done. So acceptance. At this stage, the person may verbally express acceptance. This phase may be marked by withdrawal and calm. Acceptance shows the learning how to carry on and incorporate this aspect of lifespan into daily experience. Reaching acceptance does not in any way imply that the people are dying are happy about it or content with it. It means that they are facing it and continue to plan and say what they wish to say to others. Some terminally ill people find that their life more fully than ever before after they come to this stage. So, the 5 stages of life, I think it's very essential that we understand as human beings. We all have families, loved ones, friends, and there is an end of life mark where we all will reach someday. Some slower than others, some faster than others. But the fact remains is that our lifespan will come to end at some point. And just as much as we prepare to go through life enjoying its benefits and rewards, we must face reality that going through life will come to an end experience at some point, some juncture at your life, and we should all prepare for it. Whether it's through written wills or mentally preparing for it and dealing with it, it's a phase we all have to follow. So with that being said, I want to go on to the section where we look at the hospice care. And this is when reality steps in. When you hear that your loved one is in hospice. And the reality is here, though, is that being in hospice or getting palliative treatment doesn't necessarily only apply to those who are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or whatever the case may be. This is generalized for anyone who is in the hospice stage. And basically, let me explain what that is all about. In hospice care, a community may work with hospice nurses and staff to meet the needs of a dying person and family members of the dying person. Some of the illnesses that qualify hospice care are advanced heart, lung, and kidney disease, strokes, ALS, Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, or AIDS. This is a hospice team of professionals that meets with the family and the dying person to provide support services. The team consists of nurse, a hospice aide, a social worker, a physician, and a chaplain if requested. Hospice care are available in many settings. There are home-like hospice residents, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, veterans facilities, hospitals, and prisons that offer hospice care. Hospice plays an essential role in, I would say, grief counseling and preparing the family members and the dying person to the end of life and what to expect and how best to prepare to meet your expectations when the acceptance process is over. We want to also look at what happens in the hospice care again. It's basically targeting those terminal diagnosis with a life expectancy of less than 6 months. 6 months, sorry. Most of the time it's covered by Medicare, and it is the process of where pain management is to allow a patient to die in comfort and with dignity. So it's to remedy and manage your experiences of pain internally and enable what little quality of life you have for you to enjoy it in those final moments. There's also the emotional, physical, and spiritual support. All of this come under the umbrella of hospice care and attention. And when that is over, you go into the final stages. And this is now palliative care. And there are similarities here. Hospice and palliative care coincide with each other. But the difference is that in hospice care, you have a 6-month life expectancy range, while in palliative care, there's no life expectancy limit now. So palliative care is basically the final moments. I can't apply to it as days or weeks, but it's the final moments where you will say goodbye. This is normally covered under traditional health insurance, just with our Medicare, and this is just to give those who are not knowledgeable an insight to what happened here. It's the point again where more aggressive treatment of symptoms without compromising quality of life. So as the pain increase and you get down to the final moments, the application or administering of more vigorous treatment still in a cautionable manner to not hinder the existence of what life remains, but doing it in a very manageable and supportive way to calm what experiences of issues physically and pain that you are experiencing at that point. And then again, just like hospice care, is where emotional and physical and spiritual support is given. That piece of information, by the way, this following information is taken from a booklet, End of Life, Helping with Comfort and Care, written by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and National Institute of Aging. With that said, I'm going to go over to the last portion of this, which deals with the 5 stages of the grief cycle. We have the denial section, we have the anger, the depression, and bargaining, and acceptance. When all this is all analyzed and put together, what is then hospice and palliative treatment during the process of end-of-life care? To summarize it all, it basically reflects the ability for professional services to be offered to you in a way which is manageable, in a way which is comfortable for both the person who is about to be deceased and family members, loved ones, to come to a common understanding and acceptance that they're about to have a family member of their life leaving them. That journey can begin with comfort, with spiritual guidance, by a hospice, a priest, a counselor, whatever the case may be, to enable that person to understand where they are going and best cross into that dimension without too much mental conflict and extra pain during that process of time. With that said, that's the conclusion of end of life, and that will also conclude the sixth dimension of living in the dementia world. And we will be back in the future to deal with part 7 of this series that reflects dementia, but also has a generalized perspective of life as a whole, that we can grow and understand life will come to an end at some point for all of us. It begins at one point for all of us. It will end at one point for all of us. Well, until then, take good care, enjoy your day, keep loving your loved ones, give them the best treatment while they are alive, treat them with dignity and respect of all times. Have a great day. Take good care.